Lovely. So, yeah, so be very happy to talk to you about it at the end. Who's starting?
There is a lot of doctors agree. I mean, they've seen it. They've tried it. Magnesium for your stomach. You know, all sorts of things for lung health. Apparently, a low percentage of hydrogen.
I've got a place up at Doppelganger. Don't want much doing to it. We had a flat after we had the first bungalow, and then we had this other bungalow afterwards. I can't understand why he couldn't get a buyer. It was easily worth more than we were asking. The point is, we've been here a long time. Oh, you might think they were grateful. We bought it.
It makes oxygen and water in the lungs. Extra oxygen. Big Pharma don't want you to know it. Well, of course not. They want doctors to keep buying very expensive drugs, and doctors all know these sorts of therapies work. I've looked up the data.
We've bought and sold in this town. Put something into the economy. Well, we've done our bit. I genuinely believe that you've got to put into a community. You know, you come here and put a bit of get up and go, a bit of spirit. That's what we did. We'll transform this place. Oh, it's got everything you want. Only a short walk to the beach and the shops. They've got everything you want there. A baker's there. He showed me this flat.
Anyway, they've come up with all these results. I've read them. All properly worked out. Doctors would know, wouldn't they? Apparently magnesium is really good. I know people who've tried it. They've told me. It's simple things like magnesium and hydrogen peroxide. It's the new wellness revolution.
He showed me this flat. They wanted 240,000 for it. 240,000 for a tuppenny halfpenny flat. And then there's all the charges on top. Oh, you could get a nice bungalow for that. You could divide it in two. I showed him Dom's ideas. You could make separate parking spaces. You only had to pay.
It even cures things like cancer. Why go on putting money into the pockets of the big pharma company?
You only had to take the gate off and you could have two separate parking spaces. Developers would make a good job of it. Don actually drew it out. You didn't need to do anything. You could build the flow up here, put a panel in to hide the pipe. It's all there. Just needs a bit of imagination. Should easy get the asking price.
In industrial nations, people are short on money.
Meanwhile, he shows me this heap of shit. Why would I pay as much for that as I'm selling mine for? I'm not saying he's got a reason, you know what I'm saying. I wouldn't go as far as that, but he's definitely not.
If you look on the packets, all the remedies, they use magnesium. They wouldn't use it if it didn't work, would they? I mean, big companies, you look on the packet, so it's got to be safe because all the big companies are using it. I mean, it has to comply with standards, so it's bound to benefit. You can even get it in Sainsbury's. Sainsbury's own brand has magnesium in it. So what?
He doesn't see the potential in this bungalow. It's such a good place. People would die to live there. Easy drive up to the town. It's typical of the place. No imagination. I could do it standing on my head. Find a developer. I could do that. But what am I paying him for? It's up to him to do that.
Meanwhile, the big pharma companies are trying to guide us away from it because they want to use their own brand. And they're absolutely safe. I mean, if you went into Boots, say, you could buy magnesium or hydrogen peroxide and use it off the shelf. It's more natural. They used it in Victorian times. They didn't know so much, but they knew what natural remedies were.
It's up to him to do that. To find a developer. I haven't got the time. And Don, not being here to give him a kick up the arse, he'd know people. You know, where the money is. He's only got to go into the Red Lion one evening and he'd find people.
And I mean, you can't trust someone that cooks...
They get in there, all a bit...
Cook something up in a laboratory and...
Don't think I don't know. Small place like this, they all know each other's business. They just tip each other a wink.
You don't know what they're using in there. Rat's piss, I shouldn't wonder. I bet it's all sorts of stuff like that. Apparently, according to the figures, it's the average life expectancy in America has been falling steadily, all because of chemicals being pumped into people. Why would you want that? I wouldn't want rat's piss. That's revolting. It's disgusting when you think about it. And doctors know all about it.
Probably a brown envelope changes hands and then they've got a nice little place. They double their money. Meanwhile, I'd be...
This one doctor, he's done some research. Graham Thompson. You may have heard of him. He's been on Good Morning. And yet, the so-called experts are all trying to squash him. What he thinks. He's got dozens of people he's cured using things like magnesium.
Meanwhile, I'm stuck here in this poxy little flat for 240,000. Where does he think this is? Knightsbridge? With all the oligarchs? They'd snap up anything.
Meanwhile, the experts, scientists in laboratories and so on, what do they know? They're only interested in promoting whatever it is the big companies are paying them for. So they're hardly unbiased because they're paid by Big Pharma themselves. See, it's all wheels within wheels. And they're trying to rubbish the work of Graham Thompson because they're being paid to. It's in their interest. But
240,000, it's laughable. Not even sandbags for a rabbit hutch. I turned straight round and came out. You're having a laugh, I said. So I'm practically homeless.
But Dr. Thompson, he's written all these books and he has to go on all these tours, so he's had to leave his job, tell everybody what he's seen, what he knows. And you can tell he's onto something because he's been struck off the medical register. He'll go to anything to make sure nobody gets to hear what he has to say.
Well, obviously I've still got the bungalow, but I'm not moving out till I get a decent offer. I don't want to stay here anymore. No respect anymore. Not like that. There was with Don.
But he's still got his followers, despite the court cases. I mean, you would trust someone like that. Someone who's fought to get his voice heard. All the things that have been said against him, all those things his ex-wife said, she'll have been paid to say that. But he's kept going. Why wouldn't you believe someone who's gone through all of that?
Not like that. They could see we were, you know, people. Just get me a fair shot.
You can dress anybody up in a white coat and give them a clipboard, and you're supposed to believe what they say. I've got this book. I haven't read it all, lots of graphs and so on, but it makes sense. Good for Graham Thompson, I say. He's certainly opened my eyes.
Just get me a fair price and I'll be off like a shot. All right, so just a little bit of explanation. Those are both conversations that I recorded at bus stops And the problem is actually trying to get down a conversation, a dialogue, a real dialogue, is so complicated. I spent ages in John Lewis's yesterday with my mobile phone because there was a really interesting conversation and I couldn't get it. I couldn't get it. But what I've come up with over the years of this research project is that there are various tiers of conversation, and this is what I call a tier 1 conversation, in which two people have a completely different story, and they do not have the just a minute, I'm just sorry. There's a famous quote that's going around on Facebook, which is that in conversation you pay attention not because you're interested in what the other person is saying, but because you're trying to find a moment where you can get your story in. So a conversation, that's a tier 1 conversation where you just have two completely separate stories that normally you find cues in the thing to go over. We use the little buzzer. Sorry.
I was going to ask, was that based on a conversation of two people talking to each other, or two entirely separate conversations?
Two people talking to each other. That's the basis of it. And not
so for 50 years you've been listening to people.
Yes.
You've come up with two people who've got fuck all to say. You're listening to
absolutely. And I'll tell you, you wait, if I get invited back, you will hear more fuck all. Because this is the thing with dialogue. As writers, we don't understand. I don't understand it. Is that people do not communicate through conversation. People only communicate through either the gaps in the conversation or in the what they pull out of it. It's much more competitive, much more, this is my go now, whatever. I just urge you to go and sit in a coffee bar somewhere, or a pub, or whatever you fancy, and just try and actually listen to the conversations that are going on. And anyway, that's tier 1. Tier 2, tier 3 are slightly different and perhaps make a bit more sense. But I think just listening to people is such a valuable activity, and all it costs you is your life. Yes, sir.
I mean, I love the buzzer with the X, because that is such an obnoxious show.
Yeah.
And obviously that I really got that. I thought that was really good job. But I was thinking, if you're going to do it, get a big TV screen behind you.
Yeah.
Right, and do it.
I would be very grateful if you could contribute to that. This cost me 12 quid as it was.
I can get a telly for that.
Yeah. There's always ways of improving these things. Yes, sir.
So firstly, just so like everyone knows, I've been going for walks with Peter over the past few months, and now I'm fairly scared about what tier of conversation I'm in. But anyway,
you're definitely tier 1. We don't listen to each other at all. We just talk at each other.
Well, the real question though is, so were the dialogues, are they like word for word, or have you obviously embellished?
That's the problem. I have not ever found a way of getting a word for word conversation. Yeah. Even with recording it. I mean, I have tried actually wiring myself, and you just can't get it, because you've got to get both sides of the conversation. And as soon as you put microphones in people's faces, they do tend to behave in a different way.
You thought about bugging a coffee table, you know. Do you remember the old...
yeah, I've got one.
Candy
As a
camera,
stick on. Yeah. What would be really valuable is, do you remember Pitman Shorthand?
Yeah.
Now, what I'd like is 2 Pitman Shorthand people to come with me and find a conversation and get them
You can
verbatim.
Have you
So-
ever been afraid of being arrested? It sounds a little bit dangerous.
I'm a writer. It's a hazard. We all.
It is really quite close to being a peeping Tom in a way.
It is being a peeping Tom. I'm sorry, and if that upsets anybody, but I just feel it's really important, and it's really important. And just to make a big point about it, is that the one thing we've lost the art of is conversation, is talking to people, or we haven't lost it, but we've lost the understanding of the importance of conversation. And I feel that if as writers we can find a way of interpreting conversation, or sort of getting beyond the sort of the formulaic conversations that we write in plays. I don't know. That's my feeling. Anyway, sorry. Oh, another hand. Yes, sorry.
Presumably the timing of the buzzer was completely choreographed, but I just wondered...
No, that was the point.
That's what I was going to ask.
That was
Is
the
it
point.
really great that you're just interrupted and you...
Yeah.
And
That-
how do you base that interruption? Do you...
Dad just said, whenever you get bored of me talking. I think I was quite kind.
We've got one at
It was quite good when it was originally, I was doing it with my sister, because it's really easy to
Yeah.
interrupt your
Sorry.
So you're
But
having
it-
at the Christmas lunch table.
Yeah, exactly, it's a good idea.
I'm sorry, it won't go on.
I like that that was live in the moment, that you
Yeah.
didn't choreograph that, because that means
No.
every time you do it, it could be different. Like,
Yeah.
Keeps it a bit on edge. Like,
Yeah. And the only thing I was trying to do there was, because yours is a bit longer than mine,
Yeah, no, I know.
I was trying
I was trying
we were
Yeah.
trying to see who would win in the end by getting the last word. Yeah. The family. Sorry.
I'd just like to make a point. I don't think I think as a writer you need to get the spirit of what's said rather than word for word.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you can get, actually your phones have got software now that will turn words into writing for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can get them in the right place. There is an issue with privacy, as you said that, but
Yeah.
anything that happens in a public space can be recorded
Yeah.
and filmed, and there's not really much you can do about it. However, I don't think that goes far enough. I think we should respect people's privacy when they're having a private conversation.
I agree with you totally. I mean, I'm being slightly flippant about it, and I would never intrude on somebody in the way perhaps I've described it. But but trying to find a raw conversation of the sort. I mean, most of the time I'm just listening and trying to understand rather than recording. But trying to get the notion of a real conversation is much more difficult than, well,
I think you succeeded.
Shall we go? Thank you so much, Ellie. Thank you to Ellie.